Good afternoon, Maroon Tigers Nation, and welcome again to another edition of the Coach Rich Freeman Show. I'm your host, Eric Slaughter, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Tucker Toole. So, Tuck, the Morehouse Magic is running wild, all the way from the ATL up to the Chi.
Yes, indeed, Eric. Words cannot explain the magic that was running through the air for the Maroon Tigers on Saturday afternoon in the come-behind victory 23-21 against the Miles College Golden Bears in the 21st Chicago Football Classic at Soldier Field.
Well, Tuck, for those fans who didn't make the trip up to Chicago, let's dive into it and tell them how the Maroon Tigers pulled this out.
Well, the Maroon Tigers didn't have the normal scoring output that they usually do, only putting up 23 points on the board. But running back Santo Dunn did have 150 rushing yards on 18 carries and 1 touchdown. But the offense overall didn't have the big numbers that we've grown to see throughout the 2018 season. Sophomore quarterback Michael Sims had 217 passing yards on 18 of 35 attempts and 1 touchdown.
Big touchdown.
One big, very big touchdown. But he did throw his first 2 interceptions of the season.
What happened on defense?
However, on defense, the Maroon Tigers did step it up. After a slow start where the defense let Miles jump out to a 14-0 lead, the defense tightened up the defense over the final 3 quarters. By the end of the game, the Maroon Tigers held the Miles offense to a stingy 252 total yards of offense on the day, while forcing 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles, and 1 interception.
Well, sounds like defense did their part. And no matter how they got it done, bottom line is
they got it done.
Yes, indeed. So the Maroon Tigers improved to 4-0. So we're going to take a break, and we'll come back, and we'll be joined by the head coach, Coach Rich Freeman.
It all adds up to memories.
And welcome again back to the Coach Rich Freeman Show. I'm your host, Eric Slaughter, and we're happy to be joined on set now with our coach, Coach Rich Freeman. How you feeling today, Coach?
I'm feeling well. How are you?
Oh, Coach, I mean, we all got to be happy, you know. Great, big, congrats on the big weekend victory up in Chicago.
Thank you.
Big win this weekend.
Now, I know you want to talk about the win, but we're going to hold off on that just a second, because you know how we do here on your show, the Coach Rich Freeman Show. Just talk about football is not what we do. We like to talk about life just a little bit. So we're going to talk about life, you know, because down here in the South, especially here in the South, sometimes we forget that life has more to do with just what happens on the gridiron every Saturday and Sunday, Friday nights. You know, life is a 7-day-a-week. So we want to learn something about you, Coach. You know, you already told us about your playing days, your beginning of your coaching career. You talked about why you chose Morehouse. We're so happy that you're here. But today I want you to tell us a little bit more about yourself. What do you do when you're not coaching your team? How do you get away and refocus your energy and do things on your own?
Okay, well, you know, I definitely, I like to spend a lot of time, as much time as I can with my family, my wife and kids, whenever we're not doing anything football related, you know, sitting down, watching dinner, catching a movie here and there. Those are things that I really take to in terms of, you know, coping with the long hours, the stress that comes with coaching football. I like to run. I'm an avid runner, 2 to 3 miles, pretty much 5 times a week.
Wow.
And like to spend time Bible study in church, you know, reading, so on and so forth. And I'm from Atlanta, so every so often get a chance to visit my mom. So,
gotta keep in touch with mom, right?
Yep, Coach, it's good to hear that you like to spend time with your family. Do you ever, and you say you run a lot, do you ever take part of any running events or the Georgia Road Race or, you know, any of those events?
I do. I like, actually, the Peachtree Road Race.
Peachtree Road Race, excuse me.
Yes, sir. I run the Peachtree Road Race every year. I've been doing so pretty much past 15 years. I like to run in the HBCU race, the 5K. I choose to run the 5K instead of the 10 because the very next week is the Peachtree Road Race, and that's a 10K.
That's the biggest 10K in the country. So.
Yes, sir.
What's your time in those, Coach? Give me a little.
My best time in the 10K was, I want to say, 55 minutes. That was about 10 years ago.
Okay, well that's about 10 minutes a mile, though, so that's a pretty good average. That's a pretty good pace.
Right.
And you say you're from Atlanta. Do you go to any of the sporting events? You know, Falcons, Hawks.
I try to get to the Hawks games every so often. Very hard to go to the Falcons games. Football season with Sunday being a major work day for us.
Well, thanks for giving us that little insight into yourself, and we're not going to hold you back too long. We know we want to talk about that big win up in Chicago, so we're going to take another quick little break. We're going to be real quick. When we come back, we'll talk about the thriller in Chi-Town.
Morehouse Healthcare is your source of wellness and healthy living. We offer a world-class comprehensive surgical practice that now includes bariatric, minimally invasive, and robotic surgery. You don't have to let obesity rule your life. The Morehouse Healthcare surgical team can provide the weight loss surgical solutions to take your next step to living a healthier life. To see if weight loss surgery is right for you, call us today or visit us online to make an appointment. Morehouse Healthcare. Compassionate care.
And once again, welcome back to the Coach Rich Freeman Show here on the Maroon Tigers Sports Network. So, Coach, let's get down to it. Big victory up in Chicago. Come from behind, 23-21 victory over Miles. Tell us how you did that.
Well, I'm proud of the guys. We played against a program that's fully funded, well-resourced. We talked about that all the time to our players and, how they would be going up against, by far, the toughest opponent on the schedule, coming into the game. I just think they were able to show a sense of resiliency that we needed to see. We needed to see that early in the season, and they did so, and it went all the way down to the wire, kept composure, and we were able to pull it off.
Okay. Well, Coach, we know that you did it in come from behind fashion. Let's talk about how that developed throughout the game.
Well, we really thought we came in and started off really slow. Miles, I have to take my hat off to Coach Ruffin. He always throws a few wrinkles in. For this particular game, it was a conference. Didn't count as a conference game, but it was a conference game, and by conference rule, we have to do a 3-game film trade.
Okay.
So we were well prepared for Miles College, but a good coach will always have a wrinkle or two that you didn't see on tape or didn't know about, and they were able to show us a few wrinkles, and they made big plays on the wrinkles that they showed us. And by the time we made the adjustment right before halftime, I really thought that we had the tables turning once we got seated into the game, but we weren't able to come through. We were able to score 10 points, but I really thought we should have tied the ball game 14-14 and go to halftime with momentum. And we weren't able to do so.
Well, let's break down some of the plays, Coach. Tucker?
Well, we know Miles came out with some big plays to start the game, and you guys fell behind. On that opening drive, quarterback Daniel Smith for the Golden Bears threw a 49-yard touchdown.
No, it was a run. 49-yard quarterback draw.
49-yard quarterback draw,
Yeah.
excuse me. What happened on that play, Coach?
Well, that was a wrinkle. It looked like a draw to the naked eye to you guys, but actually it was a midline option play.
Okay.
And what they did, they influenced our defensive tackle upfield and got him into no man's land and made him think that they were handing the ball off to the fullback.
Mm-hmm.
And the offensive lineman climbed up to the next level and blocked our linebacker. So we didn't have anybody that could tackle. The next closest defender was the safety, and he was occupied by a receiver on the vertical route. So that's why you saw the quarterback scamper down the field for 49 yards. It was a great play. It was something that we hadn't seen on tape. But they tried to run it a couple other times. Luckily, we were able to make the quick adjustment, and we caught it so it wouldn't continue to happen.
Well, let's focus on the defense a little bit, Coach. Thankfully, the defense, they came up with some turnovers in the first half. A couple of them were in the red zone again, and that stalled. That stopped a few of the Miles drives. So talk about your defense in the first half.
Well, Coach Copeland, he doesn't like to own up to it, but in several situations we've been regarded as a bend but not break defense. That's an insult to a defensive coordinator. You want to be a shutdown defense, but sometimes with what we do, we bring a lot of pressure. We show a lot of different fronts. Every so often, people will hit a big play on us, and they were able to do so. And but when that field shrinks, when you get inside the 25 or inside the 15 or inside the 5, the whole game changes up, and we try to take advantage of those tight dimensions. So we were able to do so, and we were able to cause a turnover. And not only on that one particular drive did we force a fumble, but at another key moment in the game, we forced them to kick a field goal, which they missed.
Yes, absolutely. Well, wonderful, wonderful. So, Coach, going into the halftime, you were able to cut that lead 14-10. What did you tell your team in the locker room as you had that momentum building?
Well, we just told them, hey, look, we're seeded into the football game. You have to get through those first 15 to 20 plays in which the offensive coach is scripting or, defensive coach has to get a feel for what's going on. You have to get a feel for the kicking game. We got seeded into it, but we weren't able to capitalize right before the half with the missed field goal. And so I told them, I said, look, we've taken momentum, but we haven't fully taken it because of the missed kick. But when we get back out, make sure we keep the same composure, continue to get out and block and tackle the way we've done, and be patient, and then it'll come to us.
Well, let's go to the third quarter now. Tuck.
And Coach, we saw in the third big play from wide receiver Leonard Tyree as he caught the second touchdown of the game. From the bomb from Daniel Smith. What happened on that play?
Well, what happened is that kid is a really good football player, and we had him on tape doing that against just about every team that they played against. And we knew that. We knew he was an explosive player, and I thought it was fairly good coverage both times. But he was able to come down with the football.
He made an acrobatic catch, very acrobatic catch.
That happened. So fortunately, for us, it only happened 2 times as opposed to 4 or 5 times. That's what type of player he is. So I commend him for being a good player, and I commend our defensive back for fairly good coverage. But we just didn't get it done.
All right, now the fourth quarter. The money quarter. They put up the 4s. That's where a game is won or a game is lost. Thankfully for us, we won and they lost. Right. So let's break it down. Now, you started the fourth quarter. You already had a drive going in the third. Fourth quarter, on the second or third play, 2-yard touchdown run by big fullback Travion Baker. That was his first carry of the season. What made you call his number, Coach?
Well, we talked about that. I mean, Travion, he was a kid in high school that ran the 100-yard dash. He was a pretty good offensive and defensive player. He's really fast, and he really could play tailback in certain schemes. But I just think sometimes he's the best blocker we have on the offensive side of the football. I think sometimes you have to reward guys. And I've talked with Coach Williams, our offensive coordinator, and I reiterated that hey, not only do we want to reward him, but this is a person that could be a threat, a potential threat with the football. Even after we reward him, we may get a reward in turn as well. So that's exactly what happened. We wanted to give him the ball, just let him know, hey, keep blocking. And he showed us that he's more than capable of total football.
1 carry, 1 touchdown. That's a pretty good efficiency right there.
Yep. Well, Coach, for the rest of the fourth quarter, for the most part, it was a bumpy ride for the offense, but defensively, you guys held Miles in check. The 3 punts and a missed field goal for the Golden Bears, and then it happened. Everybody says the 2-minute drill. This was really like the 1-minute drill for you guys. With 1:10 on the clock, 70 seconds. Michael Sims led the offense on an 8-play, 84-yard scoring drive, and it was caught by. It was still voted the number 1 play in Division 2. So take us through that 39-yard Hail Mary to Tramel Good.
Take us through that whole drive if you can.
Well, I'll be honest with you. That my hat's off to Coach Williams, the offensive coaching staff, and those kids. We practice situational football quite often.
As all coaches do.
Quite often. And, not only do we practice it, it's a big deal. I mean, we stop practice and pause. And it's almost as if we pull out a majestic horn and alert everybody, hey, look here, we're getting ready to do 2-minute drill. We make it out of a big deal. And the kids embrace it. Mike did a good job of engineering the calls that were put in by Harry. And the offensive line did a really good job of protecting. The kids ran unselfish routes because, a lot of times you can tend to unconsciously run a selfish route, thinking that you're getting ready to get the football, but you're cutting someone else off. So we had the right group of guys on the field at the right time, and the windows came open, and the kids caught the ball. And not only did they catch the ball, they were smart enough to run the ball back to the official, and they were smart enough to get out of bounds, to do all those things.
Game management.
They did a really good job managing the game. And to be honest with you, we were trying to take a shot, just so we could have another shot. But it seemed like the ball stayed in the air forever. All the time ran off the clock. Tramel Gooden is also a basketball player, so he's one of our top rebounding basketball players. So it was like getting up and grabbing the rebound.
And being a member of that Morehouse basketball team, he knows how to win. Because they got a little bit of a pedigree over there, so he brings that to your football team.
No question.
Well, folks, we know how it ended. Thrilling 23-21 come from behind victory for your 4-0 Maroon Tigers. Well, Coach, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, it's time to turn the page. We'll talk about the Kentucky State Thoroughbreds here on the Coach Rich Freeman Show. Once again, welcome back to the Coach Rich Freeman Show here on the Maroon Tiger Sports Network. Well, Coach, I know it's hard to turn the page forward, but you have to. A couple times this year, you mentioned to us for a conversation that without a bye week, without an open week on your schedule, you got to refocus quickly. Everyone says 24 hours. You really can't even take those 24 hours. So let's talk about Kentucky State. This Saturday up in Frankfurt, what's going to be the game plan?
Well, we're playing against a really talented football team coached by a seasoned veteran in Johnny L. Smith. He's led programs in Michigan State and University of Louisville. And, he's kind of been around the block and back. So they got a class act running their program over there, and they have some really talented guys, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, the quarterback position and the tailback position. So they have a double threat quarterback and a really talented tailback that we have to try to see if we can load the box and stop. So that'll be the game plan defensively. Offensively, we got to be able to finish drives. We definitely want to try to put together a good plan in terms of running the football, slowing the game down, while at the same time speeding the game up as well, if we can do so. So that'll be our plan, and to be responsible in the kicking game.
Okay. Tucker, any questions, Coach?
Once again, Coach, you guys will be taking on a winless opponent, but it's another road contest, and you guys can't take anybody lightly. So what's the game plan this week going into Frankfurt, Kentucky?
Well, let me say this. Winless opponent, that's true, but at the same time, Miles College was a winless opponent as well, and they probably were predicted to be the favorite against us with a 3-0 record on last week. I think when you get into conference football, what we need to understand, most Division II programs play up in the first 2 to 3 games of the season, playing in classics against Division I AA teams or crossing over into conferences that have top 25 football teams. So a lot of them come in to conference play with, mediocre records. But it's a lot of parity within our conference, and Kentucky State is definitely one of those teams that you can't look past. You can't look past any team in the conference because every team is capable of beating you.
Can't
So
treat them lightly.
you can't treat anyone lightly. So, our game plan to be as such. That's what we'll try to pump into the heads of our guys. Hey, look here. We definitely can't have a nonchalant attitude towards this football team. It's a long bus ride. We're talking about a 6-hour plus bus ride, which would kind of pave the way to another slow start if we're not careful. So we got to find a way to keep the guys enthused, excited, and fired up to be able to get to a faster start.
And I was going to ask you about you guys' start to the season. You guys have been more of a second half team throughout the season. Playing well in the second half. How do you plan to come out strong against Kentucky State?
Make that more of a first half team or put a whole 4 quarters together.
Well, we have to get seated and situated a lot faster. That's taken us too long to identify what the other team is trying to do, and we got to probably be a little bit more offensive in terms of how we strike, if that makes sense. Even on the defense side of the ball, be more of the dictator as to how we want the flow of the game to go, rather than to sit there waiting to see how the other team wants it to go, and then turning the tables and making it go the way we want it to go. So I think if we can sit down as coaches and we can try to see if we can get a hold of the game much faster than we've done in the past, that'll help us to not have to fight as much down the stretch.
Well, Coach, I'm going to follow it up with this. Against Miles, you won the opening, you won the coin flip, but yet you deferred to the second half. Maybe if you win this time, because being a visiting team, you'll get to make the choice. Maybe you go on offense first and put up 7 points.
That's one school of thought. I have several ways of looking at it. I'm a defensive coordinator by trade, but at the same time, I really thought over the years that may have been that method of thinking. My method of thinking may have been assisted with the decline of some of our offenses. So that was something that I spent a lot of time with Dan Quinn with the Atlanta Falcons, just talking to a defensive head coach, just trying to get a feel of how you keep a prolific offense. How do you manage offensive coordinators that want to take a shot here and there rather than to muzzle them with your careful approach, so on and so forth. So sometimes, we'll have a little bit of spontaneous thoughts, and that could be one. That could be, hey, look here, we're gonna take the coin toss, we're gonna take the ball. And I want us to go vertical on the first play of the out. So we'll think about stuff like that. I know that's exciting for fans,
Right.
but that could be somewhat nightmarish for coaches.
All right. Well, Coach, we appreciate you sharing your thoughts about your upcoming opponent at Kentucky State. And we're going to wrap it up here today. Always thank you for joining us. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for this week. It's the Coach Rich Freeman Show. Always thank you for tuning in. But before we say goodbye, we need to give a little thanks. Executive producer of everything on the Room Tiger Sports Network is Athletic Director Andre Patillo. The producer of this show is Sports Information Director Ruben Perez Jr. Our director behind the camera is Chuck Johnson of Multimedia Technologies. I'm your host, Eric Slaughter. On behalf of my co-host, Tucker Toole, and the Coach Rich Freeman Show, we hope to see you next week with another victory.